knowledge of him who saves us by his blood. Let us put down roots to deep water. Let us drink from the fountain of life. And we shall be like trees planted by the waters, planted by rivers wide and deep. Trees green and fruitful, bearing fruit of love in the vineyard of the King. Come, let us grow in the grace and knowledge of God's Spirit by which we're sealed, studying the riches of his word. Let us eat of the bread that he gives, and we shall be like trees planted by the waters, planted by rivers wide and deep. Trees green and fruitful, bearing fruit of love in the vineyard of the King. Come, let us grow in the grace and knowledge of he who calls us by his Son. Let us gather now at his table. Let us feast on the richest of food. And we shall be like trees planted by the waters, planted by rivers wide and deep. Trees green and fruitful, bearing fruit of love in the vineyard of the King.
Good morning. Let's edify one another, he says as he brushed the snarls out of his beard. Check your private chat, O'Shea. Morning, good evening, Sam.
And what do I do with that?
That's where we're going to start off.
Okay. But I don't need to do anything else with that.
No.
Okay, perfect. I got that title updated.
Thank you.
Good morning!
Oh, and hopefully somebody's tagging. You're working on it? Good. Leslie's working on it. It's a beautiful, beautiful morning out. Lovely, misty, rainy. And to which I say, rain longer. I'm not going to say rain harder. I'm going to say rain longer. Good morning, Sister T. Told you I was coming.
Good Sam.
Oh. I sat down and had a long conversation with my boss this morning in which he begged me to take a field trip tomorrow because they didn't have anybody else to take the field trip. And he has to go to the long-awaited funeral of his father-in-law. And the long conversation involved the errands of a lot of grievances with his mother-in-law. Oh. Even his wife evidently has some grievances with her mother. I would love I like to have a long, light rain.
Gentle.
Yeah, a long, gentle rain. The short, hard rain gets massive amount of water too quickly. And so the water tends to not just fall, but then run off. And we like, what happened to it?
And
Well, it ran off.
Ditches and does almost no good.
It elopes and,
yeah,
all that other stuff. Makes poor choices. And good morning, Maureen.
Yeah. Good morning.
Sam's Wi-Fi went out. Well, hopefully he'll be back. See you in a minute or so, Sam. Let me know when you get back. Still a snarl in there. I think it's always funny. There's like a little spot right in here where you can see it, where the hair is lighter, and so it doesn't tend to. It tends to show skin more than elsewhere. Weird. Maybe it'll get thicker after a while. Anyway, so I'm late because I don't only let brothers air grievances and listen to them. I let people of the world do it as well. Sometimes it's important to let people vent and to be that shoulder to listen, or the quiet ear to listen, and I think he really needed that this morning. So. Very good, Sam. And so that's why I'm late, reasonably late. So I didn't get home until it was almost 10 after 9. So then I had to have breakfast because I have to take my medicine, and that medicine requires me to eat. So. All right. How y'all doing? Oh no, we need to. And O'Shea, put this on your prayer list for tonight, would you please? Dina Blevins just messaged her nephew, 50 years old, Jason Blevins, passed away from diabetic complications yesterday. So remember the family of Jason Blevins.
Okay.
And Dina, if you're watching, we will indeed remember you and his family.
It's Thursday.
It is Thursday. All day, even.
Mm-hmm. CJ came in yesterday and he says, EE on a Tuesday?
Hello, Heather.
I'm like, CJ, today is Wednesday. It has been Wednesday. All day. For quite some time. If you're asking me about the EE on Tuesday, I don't know.
We didn't have one.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we had one or not. I don't know. But other than that, it's Wednesday, CJ. And he's like, oh, I just realized this. Poor CJ. Prayers for the Blevins family.
Yep.
I don't remember how to spell that, so
Blevins. Blevins.
Okay. I was close.
Me too. Sam says, yay, his Wi-Fi is back on. How you doing, Sister T? How you doing, Sister Maureen? Heather, how you doing? Sam's talking quite a bit, so we know he's doing okay. You have some old Looney Tunes videotapes. Well, Sister T, we do have a VCR somewhere. I'm not sure it works so hot, but we have like almost every Looney Tunes available on YouTube. So kids are, and we have them recorded on dish as well. So probably they wouldn't get used. You might try to see if, I mean, especially if they're in a fairly decent condition, see if you could sell them on eBay or something. And some collector would probably take them. Maybe not for much, but you know. Sam says 59 and mouthy. Well, we certainly hope you have a mouth. It's easier to eat that way. All right. Well, that's my suggestion, Sister T, is because old tapes like that, there is a collector's market for them. You might start looking and research that, see how much they'd cost, because you might get a decent amount out of them. It'd be better than trying to sell them at a garage sale. Let me tell you that. Garage sale, you might get $5 for the whole lot. Selling them via eBay, especially if they're in decent condition, you might get something more than that. Or selling them on Marketplace. I'm going to do an off the cuff because we have a repairman coming for our dryer. I'm going to do my best to give you an hour's worth, maybe a little bit more, depending upon how things shake out. If he gets here before then, well, I'll have to cut it off. But let's get started. I'm not going to, so like I said, I'm going to do an off the cuff this morning. Feel free to chime in with questions and with any observations you might have. The topic today, Sister T, I know you like topics, so here it is. Get ready. Let's write it down. It's entitled Questions on Questions.
Beautiful. So beautiful.
Thank you.
Poetic.
There you go. So, why am I talking about questions? Quite a number of reasons, actually. And it's something that comes up, especially when you're dealing with songs.
Be right back.
How do you treat songs? Me being a songwriter, how do you treat songs? For a number of episodes, probably for basically a year and a half, 2 years, every once in a while we have something come up. Somebody tries to post a copyright infringement on our songs on my videos. And for the song that you hear at the opening of every one of my videos, come let us gather, or come let us, what is it now? Come let us grow. Come let us grow. There it is. The name, I mean, the name of the song is Come Let Us Grow. It's mine. I wrote it. I composed it. And one of the things that I have to do as an honest songwriter is make sure nobody else has ever done this particular tune or words. Now, there are certain things that I can do. For example, there are certain tunes that I can use that are available to be used that nobody can claim as theirs. And then there are tunes that I cannot use. Why can't I use it? It's music. Anybody can come up with those particular notes, right? The problem is if I were to write and spend the hours that I do, and when I say hours, usually, let's put it in perspective. Most of my compositions come while I'm driving school bus. That's usually an hour and a half worth of drive time. And most of it is when I have nobody on the bus. A tune will, a phrasing or whatever hits me, and I begin developing a tune. Or perhaps I begin developing the poem first. And then as I develop the poem, the melody shapes up because certain, it begins to flow. Well, I'm putting in time, effort, work, which translates into work, to develop this music. And if I'm doing that, should I not have a right to that time? What do you think? So let's say on an average, let's say I spend 15 hours working on a song. I'm brainstorming. I'm writing the words in my head. I may not write them on a piece of paper yet, but I'm writing them in my head, and then I record them on my phone. I don't do it while I'm driving, by the way. I usually stop the bus, and I'm usually at a stop. Since none of the kids are on, I'm usually stopped waiting for the time when I go to my first pickup or so, because there's the kids are how do I put it? It's usually because I get a text from the parents saying, "Hey, no kids at this stop today," and so I'll stop and wait before I go to the next one. Otherwise, I'm way too early, like 10 minutes, for example. If I'm okay if I'm 5 minutes early, but I'm not. It's not okay if I'm 10 minutes early. So I'll stop and wait, and so that's usually when I will record my audio, either the melody or the words that I've come up with. And then I begin rewriting, and I begin composing or recomposing or modifying. So I spend 15 minutes, or not 15 minutes, 15 hours working on this song. Is that different than Sam spending 15 hours cleaning up the landscape at and developing the landscape at business XYZ, or Teresa cleaning client ABC's house, or since Debbie's the one that does the cleaning, how about we use Debbie? Should I not? Do I not have a right to being paid for my time? Sam, it's not that I have a right to that note, but to the phrasing of note. It's no more that I don't have a right to that letter, ABC, or even to that word, but the way that that word is organized in sentences. So if I write a sentence, that sentence is uniquely mine. I've written it. Even if it is just simply Sam went and played ball. Well, I just wrote that. Let's say I penned it, In my story, I have a character named Sam. He went and he played ball. Now I can modify that any which way I want. Sam went and played soccer ball with Charles and Trinity. Now, I just wrote that into my story. I don't have right to the individual letters. I don't have right to the individual words. I have a right to the composition of the story. And in the same way with the melodies, I don't have rights to the individual notes, but to the composition of the notes, the way it's played, the way that they go up and down, the phrasing. And music, by the way, is way more regulated than what you think, because there are only certain, there are so many different variations, and it has, how do I put it? With music, you can have 5 notes in a series, you can have 2 notes in a series, and it gets really dicey when you go down to like 2 notes in a series. It's like, okay, you're not gonna be able to get away with that. You can't copyright 2 notes in a series. But when you're dealing with 5 notes, or you're dealing with a entire line of music that is done a certain way. O'Shea, what was that one song?
There are too many one songs.
No, there was a song that I think it was Queen did, that another band came and they added 1 note difference.
It's the other way around. It's Queen did
Dun, 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 dun,
yes, that's
dun, 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 dun,
that's
dun,
Under
dun.
Pressure by Queen. And then Ice Ice Baby
Right.
started off the same, and they added 1 more note and copyrighted it.
Ice Ice did.
Mm-hmm.
But Queen had it first.
Yes.
So Queen had that song first, and it was Queen's.
Now, the rest of the song after the intro is different, but
right.
still.
But there was a big copyright battle over that intro. And Ice, or what was it, Ice-T, or not Ice-T, Vanilla? Whoever it was that did Ice Ice Baby.
Yeah, it's like Vanilla.
Had to fight a legal battle over that, because they added that 1 note. They changed it by 1 note, but because it was so similar, Queen thought they had a right to it. Vanilla Ice.
And the way it went was, it says, thankfully for Vanilla Ice, the case did not end up going to court. It got settled in private. The amount was not revealed until much later. The sum of $4 million USD was paid to Queen, along with writing credits for the 4 members on the song. So Queen won.
Yeah, so Queen won. Because if they had taken it to court, Queen would have won anyway, and Vanilla Ice would never have been able to use Ice Ice Baby. And that's because of legal precedent that goes way back before Queen. Now, the reason I say this is because who has put forth the effort to do this? Is writing, is it work? Is writing work? Maureen, I'm gonna pick on you because you're here and I know you are. Heather, how much work is it for you to sit and write a letter to somebody? I'm not saying how fun is it. I'm just saying how much work is it? Of course, it's no work. So it doesn't take any time at all. You don't put any effort into writing you don't put any effort into writing your letters. What if you were a secretary? If you worked for a company, what if you were a secretary? Would it be considered work?
I'm with Heather. Takes me a while.
And Maureen says it depends on the reason for the letter. Teresa writes letters. It can be hard. So if being a secretary, that's a job, and their purpose is to write letters, right? And so you get paid for writing letters. You get paid for answering correspondence. What about writing books? If I was, I mean, let's say we all know authors. I mean, we know there's many different authors. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote Sherlock Holmes. We have Mark Twain, who wrote Huckleberry Finn, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, My Life as a Riverboat Pilot, and many more. We have Nathaniel Hawthorne, one of my favorite American authors, who wrote The Great Stone Face. We have G.K. Chesterton. We have P.G. Woodhouse. Not Daniel. What's his name? Well, we have Noah Webster, Daniel Webster. We have Benjamin Franklin. We could name also what's his? I almost had it. He wrote David Copperfield. The Pickwick Papers and the House of Seven Gables. Anyway, you also have writers like Charlotte Bronte, and what about them? They put forth time, years sometimes. Should they not be paid, or for the time that they took to produce these books, to write these books? Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 12. Solomon says this. My son, beware of anything beyond these. Of the making of many books there is no end, and much study is the weariness of flesh. Even Solomon, who wrote what, 4 out of the 5 books of the Bible, he wrote Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Solomon, and some of the Psalms. Charles Dickens. Thank you, Teresa. She looked it up. She Googled it. Thank you. I knew it started with a D. I don't know why I was drawing such a blank because, David Copperfield is like one of, plus he also wrote Christmas Carol. Anyhow, Solomon says that there's the making of many books. Should the author then should he not be profited by his work? Sam says we do not want to plagiarize. Well, and what is plagiarizing? But I want to look at it from the aspect of work. Okay, if I write a book if I just like a number of our brothers, compile years of sermons into a book, I take, let's say, 20 years of my life of the sermons that I preach, and I put them into a book for others to benefit from. Should I not receive some little remuneration for that? You fail to understand the point, Sam. It's not the question itself, but the recording of the question. I can ask you, how was your day? But if I write it within the confines of my work, it becomes my question because it's part of my book. Sam asked, but when anybody asks that question, how can you own that question? Because I wrote the question. I recorded the question. I took the time. I took the ink. I bought the paper. I bought the pen. I took the time and wrote it down. Then I took my collective work and I went to the publisher. Actually, I paid the editor to edit my work. Then I took it to the publisher and paid the publisher to bind my work and into a final copy. That becomes my copywritten work. So to take that question from my work, then and then to present it as your own, that's called plagiarism. Which means that you have stolen my work. It's not that I own the right to the specific words, but if I record it, if I write it down in published format, it becomes then my published work, and I have a right to the written work.
Remember when we had
Go ahead.
several of those organizations who would flag down our videos to claim 2 seconds worth of audio as their own. And sometimes it'd just be static. Or it wasn't theirs.
Yeah. And I had to go and prove that it wasn't their work, but it was my work. Okay. If you built a chair, Sam, would you not want to be paid for your chair? If you built a chair to sell and you go to sell that chair, would you not want to be paid for that chair? Of course you want to be paid for that chair, right? That's what you built the chair for, was to sell, right? How would you feel if you sold that chair and O'Shea bought it and then said he built it? If not just said he built it, but put his name and mark on that chair and sold it for 5 times what he bought it for, and sold it as his work. How would you feel? Are you saying you wouldn't care that he lied about your work? I call that a lie. How can we as a Christian, for one thing, not care that someone else is lying? And secondly, how can we as a craftsman not care that someone is taking our work and illegally making profit off of it, as claiming it as their own? Ephesians chapter 4. Beginning in verse 23. Actually, 22. Well, yeah, let's start with 23. Ephesians 4:23. But you just told me that you wouldn't care. That's what the law is for, Sam. That's the reason for copyright laws in regard to written material. That's also a reason for copyright laws in regard to auditory and visual material. You may not be able to control exactly what he did, but you can certainly take him to law or to court for what he did and show that he was lying. And be renewed in the spirit of your minds, and to put on the new self. We're in ESV. And be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and that ye put on the new man, which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness. Wherefore, putting away lying, speak every man the truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another. Okay, I'm going to stop there for a moment. One, we are not to be fashioning ourselves after the manner of the world. We're to be renewed in our mind, in the spirit of our mind. We're to be renewed. We're different. We're cleansed. We're to, all right, love you, sister. Tell Gabriel and Isabel I said hi. No, you're saying there's no unique design or wording. Yes, there is. There is unique design and wording. There is a unique pattern that is to each one of us. And the law exists that we can write down our thoughts and our words in the way that we put them, and that becomes our work. Anyway, but we are to put on the new man, which after God is created in righteousness. That is, to do right, the works that are right, to do the things that are right, and that are true and holy, created in righteousness and true holiness, not in false holiness, not in fake holiness, not in fake righteousness. Wherefore, because of this, we are to put away lying. So if someone has recorded a lesson, let's say a while back, Dad presented a lesson that he took from, I can't remember now who it was he took it from. I'd have to get my book out. But he had heard this lesson from a brother and asked for the sermon outline. He received the said outline and he adapted it. And he made mention of the fact that he adapted this from this brother's lesson. And he said, "This is not uniquely mine. I adapted it from, I received this lesson from brother so-and-so, and I have adapted it." Now, if he had taken that outline and had presented it as his own, without attributing it to brother so-and-so, he would be lying, correct? Because he didn't put forth the work to develop this lesson. It was not his. He did not spend 40, 50 hours on that work. And many, many preachers in our brotherhood spend 40 plus hours developing a lesson. They don't just sit at the office or in the building. They don't just sit there for 8 hours a day doing nothing, twiddling their hands, playing on their phones or on their computers. They spend that time in study. They spend that time in developing their lessons. They spend that time in carrying on sessions, counseling sessions, or other things. But many of them will spend up to close to 40 hours developing a lesson. And it may take them several weeks to develop a lesson. So if Dad had have taken that lesson and presented it as his own, He didn't develop that lesson. He would be lying. But because he attributed it and told you that he had taken it and adapted, he gave proper attribution to the one who had actually put forth most of the work. We are to speak every man truth with his neighbor. Now, this is truth with everyone, because who is our neighbor? Jesus. Who did Jesus say was our neighbor?
Everyone else to walk this earth.
Everyone. We have brothers and we have neighbors. But we are to speak truth with everyone, for we are members one of another.
We're in it
doesn't.
together.
Yeah, we are. So this exists beyond the brothers. This basically means we treat every man the same. We speak truth to everyone. Sam, you ask, what if someone had a show and they just said one line and did not know, but everything different? But everything else is different. If you don't know the author, but you know it's not yours, you attribute it to anonymous, or you say, I know that this is, I got this from somewhere, but I can't remember where. So you let people know that it's not your thought originally. And you say, when I do remember, I will put the proper attribute, the proper credit, because I want to give credit where credit is due. Because we need to be honest. We are to provide things honest in the sight of God. And we are to speak truth with everyone. Put away, and so if we don't have the proper attribution at one point, but we know that was something we gained from somebody else, then we need to note that it was something we gained from somebody else. Verse 26. We're going to end up reading through the end of the chapter. But anyway, be you angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath. Neither give place to the devil. This 26 and 27 is one sentence. He says, do not be angry. Do not let the sun go down on your wrath. Or I should say, do not be angry. No, he says, be angry, but do not sin. Let not the sun go down on your wrath. Don't give place to the devil. If you're angry, do not sin. If you're angry, do not let the sun set before you resolve it. Neither give an opening to the devil. In your anger, don't open yourself to the devil. In your anger, opening yourself to the devil would be letting the sun go down on your wrath, on your anger, so that you can stew on it all night and get even more angry and bitter. In giving the place to the devil in your anger, is to do something hasty. And we can go to Proverbs for that, to show that. A man that is soon hasty comes to ruin, I think is what it says. And Sean has a wonderful. He actually compiled a list, I believe it is, of all the places in Proverbs that talk about, and maybe even all the places in the Bible that talked about anger. I wish I had that with me, but I don't. Yeah, I don't know. Could be Proverbs 19:19. Could be Proverbs 25:28. 15:18. Proverbs 16:32. Yeah, I don't know. Sam, don't start. That's what. No, do not be hasty. A man that is soon that is that the only place for a hasty? I mean, Sam, let's be honest, okay? If you don't know that somebody else ever used it, can you give proper attribution? Of course not. But once you do know that somebody has given that said it, then you need to go back and give proper credit. All right, that you're bringing in a whole bunch of what ifs, but I mean it might be a good one, but that's also one that you're going to start going into what if this, what if that, like a little child trying to justify their actions. Um, so I want to make sure that I head off any of those. Here's the thing: the law states that you can there's a certain gray area. Um, if you don't know that it was used somewhere else, you can't give proper attribution. But when you do know, you must give. All right. Because if it should be later proven that you did know and didn't, then you can come into some very serious hot water. So is what I'm trying to get at. He that is slow to wrath is great understanding, but he is hasty of spirit and exalteth folly. A man that is soon angered. What is that? A man that is soon angered. There is more hope of a fool than of him. Is that what that way that goes? But going back, let's go down to verse 28. The problem with somebody the problem with somebody writing something and then us not giving proper credit when we have read that, um, when we use that in our work, otherwise known as plagiarism, is found in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 28. Ephesians 4:28.
What was that?
Ephesians 4:28.
Okay.
Not Ecclesiastes, Ephesians. Thank you. A person who spends his time making a song is worthy of being compensated for the song. It's one of the problems that you have in the music industry. Same way with a person who spends their time making a video is worthy of being paid, compensated for that video. It's the same thing as in a person writing a book. It deserves to be compensated for that book. If I go and I make a video for profit, um, and I sell my video, then I deserve to be paid for my video. And somebody who goes and illegally copies my video doesn't give me my profit, doesn't compensate me. For example, let's say I make an ad for what's a good one? Let's say I make an ad for brand XYZ tools, and I show it to XYZ in the hope that XYZ will pay me for it, will take my ad and use it and pay me for it. But XYZ turns me down. 3 months later, XYZ begins airing my ad, only they have attributed it to somebody else. And they're not paying me for my ad. What have they done? They stole my work, didn't they? They stole my idea. Essentially, they stole my credit, or stole all of my work. And they're passing it off as their own. Now, I can go and I can turn around after a lengthy legal battle, showing that I actually had that idea before them because of the timestamp on my videos, showing all my production and everything. I can then, of course, sue them and receive compensation, and or prohibit them from using my work ever again. But in the meantime, damage has been done, hasn't it? And I may not win because they may have better lawyers than me. And then, of course, I may not ever receive work in the ad industry again. The Bible says, let him that stole steal no more. Rather, let him labor, working with his hands the thing which is good, that he may have to give to him that needeth. If I take the work of a brother in Christ and I turn around and I present that work as my own, I'm stealing from my brother. Regardless if this is it on so many levels. If I take the work of anybody and I present it as my own, I'm stealing their work. Whether I built the chair, whether they built the chair and I'm presenting it as my own, whether they wrote the book, whether they wrote the music, whether they produced a video, whatever. If I'm presenting it as my own, I am stealing. And the Bible tells us to do what? Do not steal. And so stealing is theft. Plagiarism is then what? If O'Shea was to look up the definition of plagiarism, what is the legal definition of plagiarism, O'Shea? And yes, I can tell you're on the phone. Ezra.
Plagiarism, the practice of taking someone else's work or ideas and passing them off as one's own.
So that's the legal definition. Yes. Sam, that's the correct way to do it, is you approach the author of the material you're using and ask, can I use your work? You are also allowed to use one or two sentences of a work in your own, so long as you you can attribute that work right there directly in there, saying, say it comes from, let's say it comes from Sam. You insert it in your actual work, and you write down his. Let's say O'Shea is writing a paper, and he takes your sentence. If I find a way, some way I like, can I use, or I can use it. And he inserts that into his material. He puts quotation marks around it, and then he adds Sam Navarro Ragsdale 2024. And then, of course, he'd have to write it at the very end. Now, that's for written work. If he was recording it like I'm doing right now, he would actually attribute it. He would say, this comes from Sam Navarro Ragsdale in a live stream on Let Us Add to Our Faith Devotion, produced by CEM, Christian Edification Ministries, April 17th, or April 18th, 19. Where am I at? April 18th, 2024. But the point is that longer sections can be used as well, so long as you properly attribute at the end, and you can use no more than a paragraph of said longer work. No more than a paragraph. Now, let's look at an example of what we do on a daily basis. We use the iGrow Daily Devotional. You notice that when I do the iGrow Daily Devotional, what do I normally do? When I use the iGrow Daily Devotional, I put up the book. I have the title right there, iGrow Daily Devotional. I attribute the author, Philip Johnson, produced by Focus Press. And I also put in a link to where that is. Hello, Sean. Good to see you. So it was right here in the, sure. And that is so that people understand it's not my work. The questions, they come from the iGrow Daily Devotional. It's not my work. And I also put a link to where they can receive the book or get the book, so that our brothers in Christ can receive compensation for their work. Not only are they receiving credit, but they can receive compensation should somebody buy the book.
It's partly advertising.
It is advertising for them. That's true. But I will not steal. Hello, Sheila. Good to see you.
Right. We're just directing money toward them and credit. because it takes a lot of effort to write a book, especially when you're a Focus Press.
When you're a publisher, I mean, when you're an author, it takes a lot of work to write the book, and then because, like I said, you have to spend the time to write and compile all of your ideas into one place. Then on top, next, you've got to go to an editor, and you have to pay the editor to go through it, checking for spelling errors, grammar errors, and then on top of that, to make sure everything makes sense and is organized into a logical order. Then, a lot of times, like what my mother does, because she's an author, she goes and she submits her work in batches to a proofreading loop, as it's called, a group where other authors will then critique her work and help her find errors like lots of was's in it, or repetitive words used over and over and over again. Maybe perhaps things that aren't making sense. Now they're not getting any compensation monetarily wise for what they do. But what happens is this is a group that is formed on the agreement that they render the same services for each other.
This is a voluntary service.
Sean's sorry that he is late, but he took his love to work, then went to get some things, and now is home and is getting ready for 3P. All right. Well, we're so glad you're here. Sam but the same way, we do a lot of study material and compile it, so notes from different studies to expand your ideas. Well, and like the Let's Add to Our Faith devotion is more than just the I Grow Daily devotional book, because we're talking about your ideas, your input from the questions. So I attribute the written work to where it belongs. But the answers are y'all's.
And ours.
Sounds like good luck for me. Anytime. It's soon. It's not happening. You're not going to write a book, Sam? Come on, man. You write one every time.
Headache.
You and Sean are my two biggest, man.
Two biggest book writers. I mean, just look at it. We could compile half of a good-sized book from what you've said today.
Both of you.
Both of you. Sean's only been here for 2 comments.
Who edited? That's a good question. We'll put Maureen right onto that. Maureen's like, no, thank you. I don't want that. But the thing is, if we don't give proper attribution to Brother Philip Johnson, who compiled the I Grow Daily Devotional, writing those questions, he thought those questions up, not me. He thought those up, wrote them in their format. Now, when he went to Focus Press, the editors there worked with him and probably tweaked those questions. And then before they published it, but it was written originally by Philip Johnson. And so he needs credit for his work. And that's why we send, we put we show the cover, we mention his name, we mention the publisher's name, and we send a link to where people can go and get it. Sean, we love you. We don't want you to be silent. When you have things to offer, it makes the stream much more fun, and it makes the stream much more profitable to everyone. And this goes for every person here. When you provide comments, it helps everyone grow. And no matter what, it helps everyone grow. because you are unique. You have insight that comes from who you are and where you have been. Every one of us has a story of how we got to this particular place in time from our life. And that means that we each view the question in a different manner. I may ask a question, but Sister T has one view of it. Sam has another. O'Shea has a third. Heather has a fourth. Sean and Maureen and Sheila. And when we bring everything together, perhaps it provides a 4D type of a view that renders us a picture that we never would have thought about had you guys not put forth these ideas. And I, as the facilitator, as the host, do nothing more than compile things and we talk about it. And that's what I look for interaction wise in my streams. As we continue then in Ephesians 4, we don't want to steal anybody's ideas. If Sean has an idea and he puts it, he's written it right there. He says, I want to be silent more because it seems like I'm just always talking. Well, now that he's written that, that has become his. And if we were to put these conversations into book format, they would become mine. If I was to do it, because I was the one that compiled it, even though it was originally him, and he would receive credit as being the talker, as being the one that gave it, but the book format would be mine because I took the time to compile all of this into one unit, into a book. I'm not going to do that. Don't be scared of that. I'm not going to do that. But I don't want to, I would not steal his ideas as mine. But the recording of it, the written work, would be mine. Does that make sense? And interestingly enough, when you're talking about dialogue, you actually have to attribute the speaker. Even in a written work, you have to attribute the speaker in your attribution, in your credit. It does literally get convoluted, especially when you're dealing with a nonfiction. As in a true to life, you actually have to put Sean and then the name of the book and the author of the book. You would in those cases you would put Sean Wooten and then a number, and in the footnote you would put the book wherein this appeared in, or the where this would appear. Yeah, if Sam was writing an article and he attributed and he mentioned Sean's comment in his article from my book that I made from this stream, let's use a hypothetical here, then he would have to attribute it to Sean and then have a nice little footnote number. And down in the footnote, he would have the title of my book, my name is author, and then the year that it was published in the publisher. So that's just a freebie. So we're not supposed to steal. Rather, we're supposed to labor and with our hands providing things good, provide that which is good so that we can give to those who need. And verse 29. 29 kind of sums up a lot of what we've already talked about. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth. That includes lying. That includes cussing and cursing. That includes dirty jokes and all that stuff. Let no corrupt communication. Nothing unhealthy. But let that which is good come out of your mouth. Something to use for edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. and grieve not the Holy Spirit of God, whereby you are sealed unto the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. Be ye kind one to another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, hath forgiven you. Verse 32. So, ultimately, as we wrap this up, questions on questions on questions on questions. Remember this. If I take something I have no right to, no legal right to, it's called theft. So, a number of years ago, you may remember there was a big lawsuit, a big kerfluffle over digital media rights. And the problem is people were downloading CDs and DVDs of movies without permission of the producers. For example, MGM had movies out, and people were downloading the DVDs, pirated versions of the DVDs, or Sony Music and some of these other groups had audio CDs, music CDs that people were pirating, putting up on the internet, and other people were pulling those CDs off, burning their own copies, and going around playing them without having paid the music, buying the CDs from the store or buying the DVDs from the store, and therefore the movie company or the music company were not getting any money for it, and therefore the artists and the actors and everybody that had any part in making the movie or the music, they weren't getting paid. There was a big kerfluffle over that. If I take something that I have no right to without paying for that, and if I take it without paying for it, I don't have a right to that. That's called stealing. It's the same as if I was to take an app and illegally download videos from, let's say, Amazon Prime without paying for Amazon Prime subscription. If I did that, I would be stealing that video. Same thing if I did that with the music. Because I'm not paying the subscription, and therefore I'm not paying, the people who produced said videos or music are not getting their money. It's called theft. If I do the same thing with a book, taking an author's idea and presenting it as mine own, then I'm stealing. As a Christian, I am not to steal. And so I then need to make a change. If I've been doing this, Sean says, I have done this, and I repented of this at the beginning of the year. Thanks to Brother Levi for having a study with me on this. I don't do this anymore because it is wrong, and I love God. Thank you, Sean, for being that. Sam says, what if I say it in a different way or say it differently? Then it's not there. You still, okay, if the thought is not original to you, even if you're saying it in a different way, you can still give credit saying, I have adapted this from somebody else.
In such a scenario, you may not have to, but it still.
Yes, you may not have to. You don't technically have to.
Yes.
But let's be clear and honest in, okay, I received this. This thought originated, or this, how do I put it? You can say that this is something that descended from another, something said by so and so. You don't even have to give the original thought. But I heard a point in a lesson by let's say by Philip Johnson, and it caused me to think this. So you're still giving attribute to the originator of the thought, even if you're saying it differently, even if you're saying it in your own words. You're saying it in your own words. It's your thought. It's your idea. But you're still attributing the origination, the original author. Sean says this includes gossiping and slandering and discouraging folks. Can you talk about that briefly? No. We're dealing with questions about copyright and stuff like that. This is not talking about gossiping. This is not talking about oh no. This is not talking about gossiping and slandering, or discouraging folks. This is talking specifically about copyright and yeah, Sheila says, Sam, you can get a works cited book or an app online that'll walk you through through the steps and walk you step by step through all types of different works regarding copyrights. Yeah, Sean made up the Mount Get Over It. So if anytime we refer to Mount Get Over It, we attributed it to Sean because that's what he came up with. My original thought, my original saying, change your thinking, change your attitude, change your life. That's mine. I developed that back in 2009. It's mine. I own it. Ha ha ha. I wrote it. Ha ha ha. So if you hear somebody else try to pass that off as theirs, no, it's mine. Stop, Drop, and Pray is another one that Sean did. Yep. And that's a good one, Sean. You're actually attributing your Stop, Drop, and Pray from the original Stop, Drop, and Roll, and you mentioned that when you talk about, well, I got this idea from the Stop, Drop, and Roll. We Stop, Drop, and Pray. So you're still showing or attributing the originators of the Stop, Drop, and Roll. And while you may not know them by name, you still attribute them when you mention that particular phrase that you came up with. So you can, as long as you properly attribute, even if it's, okay, I came up with this idea, but it's after I heard this. You stole this from you stole what from personal use, Sister Sheila? There is in man a God-sized hole, and I've noticed that that's actually heard somewhere else online as well now. I've actually heard other people begin using that, and I don't know where I happen to see it in a video. but it's okay.
There's
Go ahead.
such a thing as eminent domain or public domain.
Yeah, there comes into play public domain, but
There's
if
a
it's
whole
not,
bunch of stuff that can't be copyrighted because it's too mundane, or everyone says it.
well, it becomes widespread, and if you don't write it,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Copyrighted at first.
then it becomes public domain, and anybody can use it.
Right, like the question, "How are you doing today?" can't be copyrighted by itself because it's such an average, everyday thing. It can't be copyrighted. No one owns that. But
Yeah,
if it's inside of a bigger sentence or inside of a story, then the
the
story,
story itself
yes.
is copyrighted.
Mm-hmm. It's not the question, it's the story. Right.
Well, and when we're dealing with songs, for example, copyright states that you can use any song and any tune. You can sing it, you can write it, you can make copies of it if it was done prior to like 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like
The people 100
1921,
years ago really do not
unless the copyright has been renewed by the original owner or by the copyright holder. For example, there are a few songs that the copyright was sold to another individual, and that individual or a family of that individual has retained copyright and has renewed it
Mm-hmm.
like 10 years ago. Even then, that renewal can only last for a certain length of time, like 60 years after the death of the original composer.
Right. And so copyrights can expire, too.
So, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and once the copyright expires, it becomes free to use and copy.
Mm-hmm. Public domain.
So,
yeah. And so, that's another thing.
and a lot of authors will say, okay, this is free to use and distribute in certain publications,
right.
so long as it's not for profit.
Yes.
All right. Well, O'Shea, I have to use the bathroom, so I'm going to let you pop in, offer up a word of prayer. Notice Susan's latest prayer request, and please pray for the Blevins family as well, would you please? And take us out of here. Blevins, Jason Blevins, who passed away.
Right, I know Blevins. What's Susan's?
Something about Cindy Rorick Phillips, who has C. diff and cancer, I think, for a second time. I didn't see all of it, so.
Where's it at?
Messenger.
Oh,
probably.
okay, there it is. I see it.
Yeah. All right. So,
okay.
If you would please take me up, you pop in and offer the prayer and say goodbye.
Okie dokie. Well, hello, everybody. Good morning. And good evening, Sam. Alrighty. So I guess for our prayer requests, let's keep the Blevins family in our prayers as they are grieving. And keep Cindy Phillips in our prayers. She possibly has cancer again and has had C. diff. So we'll keep her in our prayers as well. Y'all, bow with me if you would. Our great and wonderful Heavenly Father, we thank you for your many blessings. We thank you for the time that you give each and every one of us. And we thank you for allowing us to use it to come together and to study, to edify, to learn, and to grow. We thank you for your privileges, for allowing us to come to you, bringing our burdens and our cares, our requests, and laying them at your feet. We come to you, Father, asking that you would be with the Blevins family as they mourn the loss of a loved one. We ask your hand of comfort be upon them, that you would lift them up and bless them with your strength. Help them through the difficulties that they are now facing. Give them peace. We ask that you would comfort each of them, bless them through their time of grief. We ask your blessings upon Cindy Phillips as her cancer may have returned and as she's been dealing with C. diff. We ask that you would bless her with your healing hand, that she would be whole and restored. We ask that she may not have cancer, and if she does, that you would bless her with the strength it takes to beat cancer and to overcome it. We ask your hand of blessings upon her. Give her good health. Be with her family and her loved ones. Bless them with comfort. Be with Cindy. Help her to get the care that she needs. We ask your blessings be upon her. We ask that you would be with Sean, his family, and Teresa and Sylvia. We ask your blessings upon each of them in their unique struggles, in their individual battles. We ask that you would lend your hand of strength, help them through whatever turmoil they are facing. Bless them with good health, give them wisdom, grant them your guidance to know what to do and how best to do it. We ask your blessings upon each of them in these regards. Be with each and every one of us who are here. Bless us all with the strength that we may need as we go through our day-to-day challenges. Give us good health. Give us strength. We ask your blessings. We ask that you would help us to grow closer to each other and to you. Help us to be the people that you want us to be your people. Give us the strength that it takes to do so. Forgive us when we fall short. Help us to get back up and to carry on your path. We ask that you would be with each of us. Help us all to be shining lights in our communities, to lighten the way of anyone we may cross paths with. We ask that you would bless us in this regard. Be with each of us. Help us to take what we have talked about today and to meditate on it and to use it. We ask your blessings through the rest of this day and into the night. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Teresa says amen. Amen. Well, I guess. Thank you all for being here. For being with us. Till we meet again, God bless you all. Stay safe. Stay strong. Have a good rest of your day. Look forward to seeing you later. You're welcome, Sam. You have a rest of your evening and a good night. And a good night's rest, too, while you're at it. Okay? Love y'all. Stay safe, stay strong. Bye-bye. Toodaloo.